to our stakeholders was not very clearly established. So on the question of data, I would just say one thing: it is not just one source of data. How you are looking at interconnectedness of that data to solve complex problems, which are not possible to solve by common sense or general analysis of data. For an example, one of the biggest asks from HR has always been employee engagement, right? And majority of the companies, you will see engagement today is a standalone function, which is predominantly focused on either doing employee events or doing sentiment surveys over a period of time, and a very event-driven thinking on employee engagement. But if you think holistically, why an employee will stay engaged with you, it's a multidimensional problem. It is about his compensation, it is about his peer group, it is about his learning, it is the relevance of the skill to the future. If you start analyzing the real problems of the business in holistic manner like that, then AI investments make a lot of sense. For example, and we all have to learn from other segments of our business, like not necessarily all the solutions we have to discover within HR. There is massive use of AI in number of things. For example, we run a vertical in agri. Today, those sensors are able to tell me the health of my produce on an everyday basis. Nobody has to even visit the field. Can I reimagine that in my workforce management, that I have metricized and created the measurement points at different stages of the life cycle, that I am able to get a real engagement score without even sending an engagement question. Right? I think those are some of the real use cases of AI. Like I started by saying, and it will sound a little provocative, I still see a lot of gimmick going on. Sorry to say that, but we are all running a race, and you don't want to be left behind. We all are doing multiple things, but ultimately, if we continue to do that, even this technology will miss the wave, and something else will pick up. You will miss a full generation of transformation which could have been possible. So the question of data is really about asking the question of process connectivity, looking at the real business problems that you need to solve, and then rework your data model accordingly. I think that's where the solution lies. Some brilliant use cases, like you mentioned. I think there will be no company which is involved in manufacturing will have workforce predictability issues. And it's only going to get complex with changing dynamics outside, not just within your company. Today, LPG crisis can cause a workforce shortage. Who would have imagined things like that, and where it is in your model? I think those are the questions I'm saying where, the power of the technology has to be used to solve that kind of problem, which is critical to your business. There's a lot of discussion of solving problems within HR. Those are efficiency questions. You will have to solve them. If you don't solve, somebody will bring products that will solve it. But the question we need to ask is, how are we becoming integral to business and solving the real business problem? Lack of skill. Have we broken down our organization by a matrix of skill which is used to solve a business problem? And if a new problem comes, am I able to assemble those skills at a real-time basis? I think these are the real problems that we should take up to solve when we are talking about a technology like AI.
Yeah, I think you have highlighted a couple of very important points, and coming to Bhavna now. So as Subrat, we were talking about attrition, we can see the attrition, we can see the performance, how the employees are performing with the help of AI, in which reason they are lacking, suppose for the sales, in which reason they are lacking, what the skills they are lacking. So we can create these other things, metrics and everything. But still, if you see the number, that is only for the talent acquisition. Why the number for the talent acquisition is very high? Maybe we are using for the interviews, we are using for voice chat sometimes, maybe for descriptions as well. Maybe for assessment, we are also doing the assessment in the talent acquisition. But when we are coming to other part of this, maybe the number is less for the R&D, could be high. It is a 21.4. I think that should be around 50% or so. But maybe this is the responses. I cannot change that response, but this is my thought. But when we are looking for the performance management, employee experience, why the adoption is low? In 2024, as I talked about, it was around 23%, 24%, then 50%, but still, why they are lagging behind for these functions? So that is my question to you.
You know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs requires you to first be fed before you can get to self-actualization. The same is true for organizations. You first need to set the foundations in place before you start doing complex problem solving. People have to get into the habit of it.
So you are with us with the study that we are at the emerging stage.
Look, I wouldn't overgeneralize because I think the reality is a spectrum. For every organization that exists on the more evolved side of the spectrum, like mine is on the more evolved side of the spectrum, there are many others who are still evolving, right? And there is absolutely no challenge in being at different stages of the journey. Each organization is driven by industry context, operating realities, budgetary considerations. A lot of things go in. Technology is an expensive pastime, right? And not every business can afford to invest at the same pace, and we have to be respectful of that. Now, having said that, I think what you said is, to me, I see this as hope. I see this as hope because the use cases are spanning across contexts, right? Talent acquisition, I have a lot of regard for colleagues across the talent acquisition spectrum. It has more elements of transaction where we can leverage the power of technology to bring in simplification, consistency of experience, improve response time, so on and so forth. So why not do it, right? That also creates, you know, in every organization's change management philosophy, you talk about celebrate quick wins, right? Why not create wins which create confidence that this is something that can potentially work in our context? It's great. On a lighter note, maybe there are more startups and technology partners who started with talent acquisition as the solutions that they've built, right? And they've evolved over a period of time. But what I will say is that when it comes to the other aspects of HR, it also requires people, professionals, to hone their technology acumen, their digital acumen. The reality is, and why start with anybody else? Don't respond, but introspect for yourself. What is your digital acumen? Where do you use technology? Just a very simple exercise. Look at your phone, your personal phone. How many apps do you have that are experimental and you play around with technology? Gemini, ChatGPT, maybe 3 or 4 others. I have 4 of them. I've got them on my personal phone because official guidelines do not allow us to download them. What I love to do is I love to play around with them just to see how's it working. What it enables me to do is build that curiosity and muscle. How many of us are consciously doing that? And by the way, it's not the organization's job to help you do that. It is the organization's job to create those opportunities, but it is our own innate curiosity. It is our own innate ability to really pick up some of this and make it happen. And I am going to touch upon something which is much spoken about, which is there is also an element of fear, right? If I bring technology in, will I continue to be as relevant? So very interestingly, just last night I read this article that's been published by Harvard, which spoke about the fact that technology can be an edge for organizational growth and competitiveness, but if you realize what it is that technology cannot do. Technology cannot bring in expertise based on experience. Human beings are doing that. Human beings teach technology and LLMs. Technology cannot have a moral compass of the kind that we have. Technology cannot help us string together data points to say, therefore, what implication does this have in different kinds of things. It can string together data points and tell you, this is what is emerging out of it. So what? Then what? So what should we do? Right? And therefore, where we need to challenge ourselves as people professionals is to say, a lot of these things, I mean, HR operations being at 20% feels a little on the lower side. That's hugely possible. Quick wins in technology are very possible. But when you think about performance management, if technology has to do performance management, you possibly don't need the managers who are doing the job that they are. Right? There is a role that human beings are meant to play. Technology is not meant to play that role. But a lot of the predictive analytics that we have, that will happen over a period of time as we fix the basics. A lot of process debt exists in organizations today. Their legacy processes, they haven't changed, they haven't evolved. We need to reskill that. If you throw technology on top of something that is suboptimal, the outcome will be suboptimal. Right? And therefore what I will say is, if you want to move up the value chain, it's a gradual process, it's not a one and done. It will take time, but the question is, how are you preparing yourself? It's that same piece of preparing mindset, skill set, ways of working, process.
True. Just So I think very beautifully you have bring in also a couple of important factors: human factor, trust, decision making. These are the factors I think very important. But let us come back to the topic again. If you look at the impact, next slide is for the impact. So what are our expectations? That is very important. What we are expecting from the AI to do? How we are adopting this? Because people are saying no, it is no impact at only 23%. 23% is also a big number. If they are saying there is no impact, it means 1/4 HR leaders are saying the total there is no impact. Another 56% saying moderate. What we are expecting from this adoption of technology?
I do want to say surveys tend to overgeneralize and not necessarily give a context relevant picture always, right? Now, you would need to slice this to say, what does no impact mean? Did you do adoption of a particular technology solution with a picture of success in mind? Or did you do it just because, it felt like the right thing to do, competitors are moving in that direction? One of the most interesting things that I've come across is, this product is really interesting, why don't we try it? Why do you want to try it? Why do you want to try it? What value is it going to create for you? If you don't have a purpose, and you're just doing things for the sake of doing things, you're not going to see results, because you haven't defined what a result looks like.
Kunal, what is your point? You wanted to say something previous.
Let me share my views on this particular thing. Sure. So, I think very valid point you have shared, Bhavna. So, I think here the entire AI adoption has to be linked with the business problem that we are trying to solve, right? So, if we don't have that vision, none of these tools will really work, and we will always see no moderate effect or no change at all, right, because of this AI adoption, right? Now, I just wanted to touch upon this particular aspect, why we see talent acquisition adopting AI tools at a high level. Probably, and no offense intended to the other HR teams here or functions here, but generally they are always on the line of fire, right? So they have to be very efficient and effective. And that's why, and it's directly linked with business, right? That's why there's urgency to come up with something which will help their lives, right? So that's why we see this particular, the scale is so high, right? And there is acceptance from the business side also. Whereas the other HR tenders that we see, there is generally not so urgency around, right? So they can wait, and other side of it is, of course, we are not too adaptive towards the, probably see it as a threat as HR people also. We are not really adaptive towards experimenting other AI tools, right? So that may be the reason why we are low on other aspects like L&D and employee experience and other things.
So let me ask one question to Viekas, then I'll come back to you. Because talent acquisition, but talent acquisition is also a big business. So that means around 50% work is for the talent acquisition. So if the adoption is very high for the talent acquisition, so I think that is very natural and there is no harm if you're talking about. So what is your thought? Why we are lagging behind in this performance and employee experience, etc.?
See, I think it's a very relevant question for us in manufacturing, because if you really look at dynamics, I was looking at my, the age data. 65% of Gen Zs I've hired last year, and my leadership comprised of 100% Gen X, which is towards starting with 48 average. So 48 to 50 would be average years. These are people, including me. We have, I think, I first touched my mobile phone in the year 2000, if I'm not wrong. Before that, either there was no affordability or availability to me. So the entire workforce is led by people who are not digital savvy. But that is not the end of the story, because we are hiring almost 60% of Gen Zs, and this is cumulatively going up, right? And these people have very high data acumen. So what we did was we did a small survey called data acumen analysis, and we did talk to everybody about certain questions about data, their savviness. I think I took your point on that how your apps are looking to you versus another Gen Z or another millennial. So we looked at all that piece and looked at the stats, and I think there's a lot of capability that we are hiring today, which will help us to coach other leaders and get them up to speed. It's very important, and that's why when we talk to Gen Zs, I used to have these cohorts of Gen Zs coming together, and they are happy to talk to seniors, and seniors kind of find it very engaging because they find young people coming from the field and plant to talk to them, and they give us a lot of inputs in terms of how we could be more flexible even in manufacturing. Where we had Tala Lag Jata factory mein once you get late by 5 minutes, and you lose your attendance for that day or whatever. So I think moving from those to more flexibility, having those choice Saturdays working. If you had 2 Saturdays working, then you can choose 2 of the Saturdays, or other ways of working, which are so digitally savvy. Like you need not be around while you can still share the information. You can collaborate and coordinate through the device. So a lot of inputs are coming from this genre, and it's making our people who are Gen X more live. We have given them knowledge, like we have undergone this AI agentic course for everybody, but knowledge will not end unless it's converted into a skill, and skill converts to ability till it becomes competence, and then this generation comes and teaches us. So I think we are creating that as a forum to educate us more.
So looking at the rate of adoption, so widely last couple of years we have seen a good adoption rate increase. And so how do you see in coming year? This is the one. And second, what are our expectations from this technology? This is the second. And third, what we need to do more? I think we would like to have the final comments on this.
I think you have now come to the $1 million question. And just a reflection on this thing, and I said warned you guys in the beginning that I wear multiple hats so that's why some of them, the points will be provocative. this question must have been asked to, my assumption is it has gone to HR colleagues. If you send the same question to hiring managers, I will tell you the graph will be very different. Right? So even if talent acquisition we are taking a lot of claim, why I raise the solving the business problem? Whose problem have we solved? Yes, HR efficiency problem. AI tools have massive capability to solve them, automate. Are we solving real problem of reducing CV to select ratio? Has it moved from X to Y? For example, when in my last organization just before coming, I finished a large project of IT transformation. We took the goal that on an average from 12 to 1 select ratio from when the interview start, not resume shortlisting, to final select, we'll bring it down by use of technology to 1:3. The questions we need to ask is, have we raised the confidence in the business to eliminate a level of interview and thereby improving candidate experience? If you put questions of that kind, this sustenance and this graph will continue to move up. Otherwise, after some time, fatigue will set in. And I have seen in the consulting part of my work, I've seen a tremendous amount of frustration within the CXO communities in the organization on needle not moving. So I will make a great HR presentation. So the real question which you asked, why I said it's $1 million question, the change will come only when we start linking it to solving business problems. A question which has been asked for as long as I am doing HR, that why HR is not on the strategy table. That sometime we beat our own drum very well, but we have to make others start beating our drum. And I think that's where the key question is, why finance is seen as most strategic function. And why HR is consistently not being seen. I'm saying in parts HR, but most of the time we are the point of call when crisis management is involved. In strategy planning, are we there on the table? Is the honest question we have to ask ourselves, because the long term, if we want to see. For example, one of the things we are experimenting right now for 2 years in my current company is the quality of goal. One of the biggest problem in talent development, talent assessment, learning need identification, the further graph areas, if you see, is about quality of goal setting. Traditionally, many models have been used, competency, standardization at the bottom, OKR, balanced scorecard. But ultimately, you can set the left side of the parameter. The target setting is still in the hands of the manager and employee interaction. Do you have the HR capacity today? What ratio of HR capacity you are working? And a very valid question she raised some time back, is every HR equipped to go and facilitate that discussion to make the goal setting process? My previous company, 260,000 employees, 30 to 35% of them have never seen their manager face to face. And they have never seen a company's office in their lifetime. How do you settle the goal setting problem there? Those are the areas, like for an example, we have an in-house built AI bot, which assists the managers and employee goal setting process. It reads the patterns. I think, this is also part of a continuum, because your major question was why the graph will not move on this side. I think these are tough areas too. And really you will have to, because it also exposes you on multiple things. Because next comes goal setting is tougher. How is the calibration happening? Because we have linked the rating to compensation grid. So to build the confidence of the manager and employee that some of this will work is not an easy task. But unless we start and intervene in those areas, I'm telling you, even the leftmost graph will start losing its relevance after some time.
Yeah, excellent. We need to solve the business problem. So, Bhavna, what is your final take on this?
I think we live in extremely exciting times. The possibilities are endless, right? They're only limited by our imagination. And then once you imagine, then the grit to go and get it done. It's not, every implementation is like a heartbeat. There are ups and downs, right? Our ability, our resilience to take the downs in our stride, even as we celebrate the ups, is going to be absolutely vital. My couple of submissions are: one, let's not try and boil the ocean. Pick one use case, take it through to success. Think deep and think wide, and please, for God's sake, think in the language of business, not in the language of HR jargon, because the business is not interested, right? So the more we contextualize it to business, the more our ability to sit at that table and to be able to think about business relevance a year down the line, 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line. That's pretty much the kind of ecosystem we're dealing in right now. 20 years is a pipe dream at best. So one is that. I think the second big opportunity that we have is simplify, simplify, simplify. I've been a consultant for most of my professional career, and I will say that a lot of the solutions that we came up with, and we made millions of dollars selling, don't work. You need hyper simplicity in today's day and age, because you have to capture the attention of people. I'm sure you all know this stat, right? The attention span of a goldfish is 8 to 9 seconds. The attention span of human beings after COVID is apparently 5 to 6 seconds. We love to scroll through Instagram. It just gives the data point, right? So simplify. And the third point that I will say is, if we have to be credible, then we've got to walk the talk. If we are not digitally educated, then we have no business driving digital transformation, because that is just being disingenuous. So walk the talk.
Great point. Simplify, simplify, simplify. So, Kunal, what is your final take?
Yeah, so of course, interesting conversation. So the way I look at this entire AI thing is, especially for HR, is of course it's going to be a bright, bright side for all of us. I think as HR, we just don't need to be just people champion. The way I look at it is, we have to be mindful of what AI can do for us, what AI can't do for us, and also how ethically we use AI. And so basically we have to be an ethical officer also, like CHROs. We have to be chief ethical officers, and also in a way data architects, that what data has to be used. And of course now